Welcome back to the Reading Corner. Today we are going to be looking at The Library of Babel, which is a short story by Jorge Luis Borges. I first read this story as a part of a collection of stories. It's called Labyrinths, and it is the compiled short stories of Borges and some of his other writings. And this is a really good short story collection. He is an Argentine author who wrote most of his stuff during the mid 1900s. And so this is a really good story and probably the most iconic from this book, and that's why I want to get into it today. However, we may get into more of his stories at a later point in this channel. The Library of Babel is told from the perspective of a man who is on his deathbed, and he's a librarian in this great library that everyone in the universe is living in. And it's composed of adjoining hexagonal spheres that just go on forever, that are of equal size and have the same number of books in each room. And there's the books are all 410 pages exactly and are composed of 22 characters or 25 characters, 22 of them being letters and the other three being a comma, a period, and a space. And of these 410 page books, there's every possible combination in the library. So it's almost like it's infinity, but it's not quite infinity. And not all of them make sense to the librarians who live within the library. The library represents the universe as all life as is known lives inside of the library. And everyone is trying to figure out the meaning of all of the books inside of the library, which they all have access to, but all have a different perspective, obviously, because they live in different parts of the library. Nobody has seen the complete opposite end of the library as themselves because it is just too far to travel, really, I think. And also, on top of that, there's people who are searching for meaning in all of these books, some of them which are complete gibberish to their modern language, and so they're trying to find a code or a reference book somewhere in the library or someone who understands it, but nobody really knows the meaning of all of the books and really what the central people are trying to search for this central meaning. And there have been wars started over it and famine and all of the different types of stuff that we see in our universe. And ultimately this author who is writing the story and the narrator has gone through that. He's been searching the library in search of this great book, this great reference book in a sense. And he has been unable to find it himself. And he concludes kind of towards the end of the story that the library is unlimited and cyclical, and I think this applies to the universe as well. The Library of Babel is such a difficult story to comprehend because it's only 10 pages, but it is so dense and so full of ideas. And I think that's kind of part of the idea here with this story. It is about this infinite library of infinite knowledge, which we all kind of have with the universe and all the evidence that we have in the universe. And it's hard to sort through it all, and everyone's always trying to sort through everything and make sense of everything. And at a certain point, we have to recognize our limited understanding as human beings, and that it's pretty impossible for us to really sort through everything. And we all have a different perspective on things because we live in different parts of the universe. And also, it's a commentary on language because for these people in this day and age, the language doesn't necessarily make sense to them in a lot of the books, but it might make sense in the future tense or in the past tense, in a different language or in a different culture, because language is ultimately sort of a code, and we ascribe meaning to it as humans. It doesn't necessarily have any inherent meaning. So, while one book may be complete gibberish, one combination of the letters may be complete gibberish to one person, it may mean something very important and profound to another. A lot of the library babble is about the nature of the library itself and of the society of people who live in the library, and not of the author and the narrator himself. But I really like this one quote. Is what the quote I'm going to share today is from the narrator, and he just really goes into where he is at. And this is a great quote from that perspective. He says, "Like all men of the library, I have traveled in my youth. I have wandered in search of a book, perhaps the catalog of catalogs. Now that my eyes can hardly decipher what I write, I am preparing to die just a few leagues from the hexagon in which I was born." And this may sound kind of fatalistic. I kind of thought that at first when I read it, but I think there's a lot of truth to it in that we have a very limited perspective. We live in our city or town or state. We might move to another city or town or state. We might visit several different countries, but the universe is definitely very vast and wide, and we will not see the whole universe. And and we have a limited perspective on things. And it's really just important to recognize that our perspective is limited, and really just how vast the library is, and how the language can take on different forms and such. So this is a really interesting thought experiment in this book. For my final rating, I am giving the Library of Babel 5 stars and 98 out of 100. This is almost as close to being perfect as a story can be. And it's really thoroughly explained, but not exhaustive, as it can be read in just under 20 minutes, I've found. And this is just an incredible story, as I've explained, so highly recommend. If you want to see more Borges content, tell me in the comments so I know to do more of the Borges stories from this book. And if you like this content, please drop a like, as it helps support the channel, and subscribe if you want to see more of this content. Thanks for watching, guys.